All right, deep divers, are you ready for another deep dive? Today, we're tackling EGCG.
EGCG.
You know the compound everyone's talking about, the one found in green tea?
Oh, right. It's supposed to be good for just about everything.
Right? That's what we're here to find out. We've got a stack of research papers here, some seriously wild stuff. We're talking rats, viruses, even chickens, all getting the EGCG treatment.
Sounds like a wild party.
But are we looking at a genuine health revolution or just clever marketing? Time to find out.
Let's separate the hype from the hard science.
You got it. Now, you sent me some dense studies, EGCG, battling brain damage, messing with HPV, even rescuing stressed out chickens.
A diverse portfolio, to say the least. I think those rats are a good place to start. They were given really high doses of histamine.
Histamine, like the allergy thing?
Exactly. Makes you sneeze. Turns out, in super high doses, it can actually be toxic to the brain.
Oh, that's not good.
Not good at all. But that's where EGCG swoops in. This study showed it significantly reduces that brain damage. And we're not talking about a tiny improvement either. The rats given EGCG, their behavior improved, they had less cell death, even changes at the molecular level.
Hold on, back up molecular level changes. Now you're speaking my language. What's that look like in plain English?
Think of it this way. They looked at things like apoptosis, which is cell death, and oxidative stress, like wear and tear on your cells.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So how did the EGCG rats fare?
They showed improvements in those markers. Suggests EGCG was actually protecting their brain cells.
So just by sipping green tea, I could be giving my brain extra protection against like everyday toxins, maybe even age-related decline. Sign me up.
It's tempting to think that, especially since the results were so significant. But remember, this was rats, not humans. Our brains, while similar, have key differences. This is really just a starting point. More research is needed.
Right, right. But it's still pretty wild. Who knew something you could drink could be so powerful?
It is fascinating. Speaks to the power of natural compounds, don't you think?
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered brain boosting. What else is on EGCG's resume?
All right, how about this EGCG and its effect on HPV? You familiar with the human papillomavirus?
Oh, yeah. Not something you want to mess with.
Definitely not. Well, this study looked at how EGCG affects the way HPV actually gets into our cells.
Sneaky little bugger, isn't it?
That it is. But this study, they found EGCG actually blocked the virus's entry mechanism. Did this in a petri dish, controlled environment.
Wait a minute, so you're telling me a cup of green tea could block HPV? Tell me more.
Let's not jump the gun here. Remember, this was in a lab, not humans drinking tea. It was just looking at blocking the virus from entering cells.
It's more of a preventative thing.
Precisely.
But
It opens the door for new possibilities. Antiviral therapies, maybe even specific HPV entry inhibitors. That would be huge.
now that's something to get excited about. Pretty impressive, I'd say.
Definitely shows the potential of turning to nature for solutions.
Absolutely. Okay, we're on a roll here. What about those chickens, EGCG, and stressed out poultry? What's the story?
Ah, the chickens. This study focused on oxidative stress, specifically in their livers. And before you ask, the researchers did induce it intentionally.
Had to be done for science, I guess. So did EGCG save the day?
It did. It acted like a shield, protected the chickens' livers from damage. What's really interesting is they dug deeper, figured out EGCG works through specific pathways, NRF2 and PPARA. They're involved in the body's antioxidant response.
Hold on, you lost me. NRF2, PPARI. Break those down for me. Why should we care?
Okay, so imagine NRF2 as your body's alarm system for oxidative stress. When it senses trouble pollution, bad diet, even aging, it sounds the alarm, activating those antioxidant defenses.
So it's like a distress signal.
Exactly. And PPARA, that's the cleanup crew. It helps regulate metabolism, fight inflammation, both of which are linked to oxidative stress.
Got it. So EGCG, it's like boosting that signal for NRF2 and giving PPR a boost.
Exactly. It's like EGCG is lending a helping hand, fortifying the body's natural defenses against cellular damage.
Wow, this EGCG is a real overachiever, isn't it? Brain protection, maybe fighting viruses, and now a liver-loving antioxidant. What else can this wonder compound do?
Well, let's talk about a study that might make you put down the coffee and switch to green tea for good, because this one looks at EGCG and cancer.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Let's hear it. Okay, spill the tea, EGCG and cancer. What's the verdict?
This particular study focused on renal cell carcinoma, a type of kidney cancer. And get this, they found that EGCG actually inhibited the growth, movement, and even the invasive tendencies of these cancer cells.
Whoa, back up. Inhibited. As in, stop them in their tracks.
You could say that. Now, this was in a lab setting using isolated cancer cells, so it's not a guaranteed cure-all for humans, but it's still a massive clue.
So how is EGCG staging this impressive counterattack against cancer? Is it those superhero pathways again, NRF2 and PPRA?
Good guess, but this time it's something different. The researchers found that EGCG activates a process called autophagy.
Autophagy sounds familiar, but refresh my memory.
Think of your cells like tiny factories, constantly producing energy and getting things done. Over time, they accumulate some junk, damaged parts, misfolded proteins, you name it. Autophagy is like the cell's internal cleaning crew, going in and clearing out all the trash, making sure everything runs smoothly.
So it's like a cellular spring cleaning, but how does that fight cancer?
Here's the thing about autophagy. It can be a bit of a double agent. Sometimes it helps prevent cancer by clearing out all that cellular damage before it can turn into a problem. But in other cases, once cancer cells have already set up shop, they can actually hijack autophagy, using it to fuel their growth and survival.
That's sneaky. So which way is EGCG pushing this double agent?
In this study, EGCG seemed to be boosting autophagy in a way that was bad news for the cancer cells. It's like EGCG was tipping the scales, turning autophagy into a weapon against cancer growth and spread.
Okay, now that's what I call taking out the trash. But it makes you wonder, what else can EGCG do? As we've been dissecting these studies, I've noticed a common thread. We've talked about brain protection, liver health, and even this cancer study mentioned something about EGCG's impact on something called mitochondrial dysfunction. Ringing any bells?
Absolutely. It's fascinating, isn't it? As we've been exploring EGCG's diverse portfolio, the connection to mitochondrial function keeps popping up.
Okay, science guru, time for a quick refresher. What are mitochondria again, and why should we care about them?
Picture them as the tiny power plants inside each of your cells, working tirelessly to produce energy. And when I say tirelessly, I mean it. They're responsible for a whopping 90% of the energy your body needs to function. Everything from breathing to thinking to that intense workout you crushed yesterday, it all relies on these tiny powerhouses.
Wow, that's a big job for something so small. So what happens when these mini powerhouses start having issues? What is mitochondrial dysfunction?
Basically, it's like your cellular power grid experiencing a blackout. Those mitochondria aren't working as efficiently as they should, and that can lead to a whole host of problems. We're talking fatigue, muscle weakness, brain fog, even an increased risk of some serious conditions like heart disease, Alzheimer's, and yes, even cancer.
Okay, now I'm starting to get a little worried. So how does EGCG fit into all of this?
Well, remember that study with the chickens and the stressed out livers?
How could I forget? Poor little guy.
Well, the researchers found that EGCG seemed to be protecting the mitochondria in those chicken liver cells. It was like EGCG was providing backup power, helping the mitochondria keep up with the demands of oxidative stress.
Interesting. So EGCG is like a bodyguard for our cells' power plants.
That's a great way to put it. And it starts to paint a bigger picture of how EGCG might be benefiting us on such a fundamental level. If it's supporting mitochondrial function, that could have ripple effects throughout the body, potentially reducing the risk of those health issues we were just talking about.
It all circles back, doesn't it? This tiny compound found in green tea is potentially impacting these crucial cellular mechanisms that are at the very core of our health and well-being.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder what else is possible. If EGCG can have such a profound impact on these fundamental processes, imagine what other secrets are hidden within the natural world, just waiting to be discovered.
I'm ready to explore. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we have one last study to unpack. And this one has me particularly intrigued because it touches on a topic that's incredibly important, especially in today's world viruses. You mentioned earlier that EGCG might hold some clues for developing antiviral therapies, particularly with that HPV study. But this last one takes a look at how EGCG interacts with the virus's entry point, not necessarily fighting an established infection.
Absolutely. Remember how we talked about how HPV sneaks into our cells? Well, the study found that EGCG actually interfered with that process, blocking the virus's entry.
So it's less about battling an existing infection and more about preventing it from taking hold in the first place.
Precisely. It's like building a wall around your cells, keeping those unwanted viral visitors out.
Now that's an image I can get behind. But as you always remind me, we need to be cautious about jumping to conclusions. This was a lab study, right? Not humans sipping green tea and becoming invincible to viruses.
Exactly. But it's a starting point. It gives researchers a target, a mechanism to investigate further. And who knows, maybe one day we'll have a naturally derived antiviral therapy that can block a whole range of viruses, all thanks to this little compound found in green tea.
Okay, I'm officially convinced EGCG is like the Swiss Army knife of beneficial compounds. But even with all this amazing research, you've always got that voice of reason keeping me grounded. So before I ditch everything and start brewing vats of green tea, what's the catch? There's always a catch, right?
Well, it's not so much a catch as a friendly reminder. Context is key. We've been dissecting these studies, isolating EGCG's effects, but in reality, it's not that simple. Our bodies are like incredibly intricate ecosystems, and there are so many factors that can influence how a compound interacts with our individual systems.
Okay, you're talking about things like genetics, diet, even stress levels, right?
Exactly. It's like trying to solve a giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
Each study gives us a few pieces, but we need the whole picture to really understand how EGCG behaves in different people.
So for those of us listening who are already adding buy industrial-sized green tea to our shopping list, what's the takeaway here?
Moderation and informed choices are always key. Chat with your doctor, especially if you're considering major diet changes or adding supplements. They can help you navigate those personal factors, understand potential interactions, and figure out what's best for you.
Solid advice as always. But what about the research itself? What are the next steps in unraveling the full EGCG story?
The million-dollar question is, how do we translate these exciting lab findings into real-world applications? That's where clinical trials come in. We need more studies, especially with human subjects, to confirm these benefits and understand how EGCG interacts with all those individual variables we talked about.
So we're essentially trying to predict how EGCG will react in the real world, not just in a petri dish.
Precisely. And those real-world trials can answer those nitty-gritty questions. What are the optimal dosages for different effects? Are there long-term risks or benefits? It's about moving from promising potential to practical application.
And that's where things get really exciting. It's like we're on the cusp of unlocking a whole new approach to health and wellness, all thanks to this unassuming compound found in green tea.
It's about recognizing the power of nature, isn't it? For centuries, cultures around the world have used plants and herbs for their medicinal properties. Now, science is catching up, uncovering the why behind those traditional practices.
It makes you wonder how much more is out there, just waiting to be discovered. It's like a whole new frontier of possibilities.
Absolutely. This deep dive into EGCG's potential is just one example. It underscores the importance of continuous exploration, curiosity, and that drive to understand the natural world around us.
Well said. So as we wrap up this fascinating deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this EDCG adventure?
More than anything, I hope this sparks a sense of wonder and maybe a healthy dose of skepticism. EGCG clearly has a lot of potential, but it's not a magic bullet. The real magic is in understanding the science, making informed choices, and approaching new information with an open and curious mind.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, if a little curiosity leads to a more informed cup of tea, I'm all for it. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of EGCG. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those brains buzzing.